Welcome to Sinkowitz, hosted by the fearless Linda Sinkowitz. She's syncing you up with the latest in election integrity, from breaking headlines to critical updates you won't hear anywhere else. With Linda, it's facts first as she leads the fight for one vote for one legal voter. Stay informed, stay empowered. Let's jump in.
Hi, and welcome to a special edition of Sinkowitz. I'm Linda Sinkowitz, the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. Now, most of you know that a few weeks ago, we had a wonderful author, Ralph Pezzullo of Stolen Elections. This is his book. And there is so much information you need to know. We decided that we wanted to do a special all on Ralph. So let's welcome Ralph Pezzullo.
Good morning.
Hi, Ralph.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, what you've put together with the Stolen Elections book, we want as many people as possible to know about it. So why don't you give us an overview and the things that you think people should know about the items in your book?
Sure. Well, it all started for me in about the spring of 2024. And I was approached by two government whistleblowers who had conducted, at that point, about a 4-year investigation into the Venezuelan participation in creating the software that is used in our elections and is corrupted and is really software that was developed to steal elections and manipulate results. So these two gentlemen, one of them is a Venezuelan named Martin Rodil. The other one is an American named Gary Bernson, who was a former CIA operations officer, a very decorated man, probably the most decorated CIA operations officer in recent history. He's the gentleman who went into Afghanistan after 9/11 with teams of special forces and CIA operatives, and they managed to overthrow the Taliban in 3 weeks with the help of U.S. airstrikes. And then they had bin Laden trapped in Tora Bora. So I knew Gary. We wrote a book together, a best-selling book earlier called Jawbreaker, about his experience in Afghanistan. And they showed me the evidence that they had put together over their 4-year investigation, which absolutely blew me away. And they asked me to write a book, which is what I did. And the book is, as you mentioned, is called Stolen Elections. Now, these two gentlemen are government whistleblowers. So they were in Venezuela looking for stolen assets from the drug cartel there, which is known as the Cartel del Sol. And it's really a government supported cartel. It's run by the Venezuelan military, and it's like I said, called the Cartel de los Soles. And the reason it's called Soles is because on their epaulets, the members of the Venezuelan military, instead of having stars like our military officers have, they have suns. Now, what Gary and Martine found out is that as they were investigating the Cartel del Sol and their money laundering and so on, they developed sources within the criminal organization. And some of those sources said, we also know about the regime's use of machines to steal elections. And they were intrigued and they started to investigate. And what they found out is that starting in 2004, Hugo Chavez, who was the dictator, the president of Venezuela, he was facing a referendum. And his Cuban sponsors, he was very close to Fidel Castro, came to him and said, Hugo, you're going to lose all our polling shows that you're going to lose the referendum. And he sort of said, well, what do I do? And they said, well, there's a new technology which is used in electronic voting machines. And maybe we can manipulate that technology so that we can use it to steal the result of the election, of the referendum. And they found 3 Venezuelan engineers, computer engineers, Antonio Mujica, Alfredo Jose Anzola, and Roger Piñate. These were young graduates of Simon Bolivar University, which is their equivalent of MIT. And these gentlemen developed some software that they didn't have voting machines at that point. So they put them into Olivetti touchscreen banking machines. And they ran the referendum on that in Venezuela. And they were able to steal it for Hugo Chavez. Now, Hugo Chavez was extremely pleased by this. And he gave these gentlemen $200 million. Now, let me explain that Venezuela is a very, very rich country. It has
I got to ask you. So $200 million
Yes.
goes to these people
Yes.
in the 2004 election,
Yes.
which up until that point, we actually had Ana Diaz. She was an election official at that time, that they were having whether or not they wanted the socialism to stop because they had voted for it and they were trying to get it off.
Right.
And she was not only, she was threatened. She was basically told that any ballots that came in that she saw that said yes, she was to destroy them. And she refused to do that, at which Eduardo, I believe he's one of their top people in government right now, actually told her, and she did this on air in our program, that he was going to have her eliminated.
Yeah.
So all this kind of ties in with the same stuff. So he knew he was going to lose. So they were doing multiple things. But I guess 200,000 or 200 million is definitely an incentive.
Yes.
So I'll let you continue on.
Well, Jorge Rodriguez, who was the head of the Consejo Nacional Electoral, was the gentleman who was in charge of that referendum. And by the way, he is the brother of Delcy Rodriguez, who is now the leader of Venezuela. So anyway, after this referendum, Hugo Chavez and Fidel Castro were extremely pleased. They gave these three engineers $200 million, and they said, develop this software. Let's find like real election machines, and we will try to use them in elections in different countries different countries in Latin America to manipulate the results of elections. And they were successful. So in the early 2000s, there were a number of elections in Latin America, in Nicaragua with Daniel Ortega, in Argentina, in Ecuador, in Bolivia with Evo Morales, where leftist candidates did surprisingly well. And despite the polls, these gentlemen won the elections. This was sort of Fidel Castro's dream come true, because throughout his career, he had been trying to establish communist regimes throughout Latin America, and had spent a lot of money funding leftist guerrilla organizations that none of them ever were successful. So basically, they developed the software, and then in 2006, they decided, let's try it in the United States. Let's see if we can win. Let's incorporate this company, which was called Smartmatic. It was incorporated in Delaware. Their headquarters were in Boca Raton, Florida. And let's see what we can do in the United States, if this will work. What they did, the first election that they ran in the United States was the 2008 primary in Cook County, Illinois. And it pitted Barack Obama, who was a first-term senator, against Hillary Clinton, who was much higher public profile. She had been the first lady, and she had been a two-term senator from New York. She was way ahead in the polls, and they were able, again, using this technology, using this software, they were able to manipulate that election and elect Barack, and Barack Obama won the primary in Cook County in Illinois. That sort of propelled him to he became a media star at that point, and that helped propel him to the Democratic nomination in 2008. Hugo Chavez commented to his head of security, who is now a friend of ours and lives in the United States. He said, watch me. This is in 2008. He said, I'm going to elect the first black man president in the United States. And he was successful. And since 2008, this software, this Venezuelan software that has been installed in voting machines that are made in China, the parts are made in China and they're assembled in Taiwan. And then they slap a made in Taiwan label on them, but they're really Chinese. They have been running our elections. They in almost in a majority of counties, election districts in the United States. And so
in other words, everything that people have been talking about that were called conspiracy theorists, that there's no problem with the machines or anything else, has been going on for several decades.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and the only way that this information is really coming out, besides the fact that you wrote a book, I mean, God forbid that we still had Biden or Kamala Harris in office, you'd never be able to get this out there.
No.
But I'm just so glad that all the detailed information is what people need to know.
Yes.
And you're not afraid to talk about the names of all these people because you have the receipts. You have everything showing this.
Exactly. So when I started this, people were saying, "Oh, you're going to get sued by Smartmatic or Dominion, one of these election companies," because they had sued Fox News and Newsmax and other people. And my thought was, well, they're not going to sue me because I have all the information, and this information is came from these whistleblowers, right? So what they did is when they started their investigation, that they are professional, like criminal investigators. They know how to bring a case to the Justice Department. So what they did is they recruited sources within the criminal conspiracy. So they went to Venezuela, they developed their contacts there, and they were able to recruit 18 engineers who worked for these companies, Smartmatic and Dominion, and had helped develop the software and steal elections in various districts in the United States. And this is a very sophisticated system. So they employ hundreds of engineers. They employ, along the way, they have China has joined into this conspiracy. Russia, Cuba, of course, was in it from the beginning. Iran, and let's see, what other country? Iran. Yeah, Iran is the other one. And Serbia helps to a certain extent because the servers that they use are Huawei Chinese servers that are located in Belgrade. Now, all this information has been presented, has been checked out by the FBI and by the Justice Department. They have seized election machines and they've done forensics on the machines, so they know everything is true. What we're waiting for now is for the administration to do something. Now, the problem is, and what we've discovered along the way, is that our intelligence services have been using this software as well. And the proof of this, and one of the examples of this, is that when Elon Musk, when Trump was elected in 2024, President Trump, he brought in Elon Musk to streamline the waste in the government. We've all heard about it. And one of the things they discovered when they looked at the Agency of International Development, they found something called CEPS, which stands for the Consortium of Elections and Political Process Strengthening. And over the years, this organization was granted by the U.S. government over $6.9 billion. Now, what CEPS is basically the marketing arm of the cartel. So that U.S. taxpayer money has gone to companies like Smartmatic and Dominion. And in a minute, I'll take you through how this software migrated from one country to another. But what this CEPS money was used for, they gave it out to different countries, and they marketed this software to these countries. Basically, they used U.S. Embassy personnel to go to the host governments and convince them that this software was safe, and that this was a very legitimate way to run their excuse me, an efficient way to run their elections. That software, same software that is used in our elections, that is created in Venezuela, is now used in 72 countries around the world. So this is a huge global problem. Now, going back to the three engineers who developed this software, they started to win. There are 300 voting districts, around 300 voting districts in the United States. And they started to go back in 2006. They started to go district by district and win the contracts to run elections in those districts. They were very strategic, and they made sure to pick out the key districts in any election. There are these are other people have identified these districts, and when they win these contracts, they take over the running of elections in those districts, and they get something that's called the poll book. And the poll book is sort of the data. It's the data on all the voters in a particular district. Go ahead, Linda.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And then we'll be right back.
At Fight Voter Fraud, we work to ensure every legal vote is counted, and no unlawful vote ever diminishes the voice of we the people. We're fighting for you in courtrooms and communities nationwide to protect transparency, accountability, and fairness in every election. Our mission is simple: one vote for one legal voter. This is our country. This is our vote. Let's protect it together.
Hi, I'm Linda Sinkowitz. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. I'm very excited to announce Operation Verify Voters 2026. This is where everyone can get involved. Every single person can get involved in helping make sure we have transparent and clean elections. The most important thing is cleaning the voter rolls. Who knows better than you on your street? You know when people have sold their homes. You know when people moved. You know when other people have passed away. Those are people we need to make sure are no longer on the voter rolls. And it's really easy to do. We can help you. What we're going to be doing is setting up training sessions, which you sign up for, and we will walk you through the process. It's simple, it's easy, and everyone can get involved. So you're going to go to fightvoterfraud.org or scan the QR code, and it'll bring you right to our Operation Verify Voters 2026. And our goal is to get every single state involved in this initiative. Everyone can make a difference. Thank you. Hi, and welcome back. You are watching a special edition of Sinkowitz with Ralph Pezzullo from Stolen Elections. So we're going to get right back to him. Okay, here you go, Ralph.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So going back to 2006, so the Venezuelan engineers, the three of them that I mentioned before, they set up a company here in the United States called Smartmatic. Now, Smartmatic and through various different corporate shell games, they were able to disguise the Venezuelan ownership of the source code of the software. Now, the source code is sort of the DNA of any software system, and it's key. In terms of Smartmatic and Dominion, the software that I'm talking about, the source code is kept in a vault, a bank vault in Caracas, Venezuela. And what they try to do as they market this software, this system, to counties in the United States and to countries overseas, they have to hide they try to hide the corporate ownership so that they can go to people and say, no, this is a very legitimate system. It's set up. Here's our board of directors. Here's our ownership. So they disguise it. Now, in 2006, a congresswoman from New York, Carolyn Mahoney, somebody in her office called out that this software was very suspect. So she had the Treasury Department do an audit of the software, and they found exactly that it was Venezuelan owned, and that they had gone through all these sort of gyrations to try to hide the fact that it was Venezuelan owned. So what the owners of Smartmatic did is they bought another company called Sequoia, which was a very small election a voting company, and they moved their software into Sequoia voting machines.
Yeah, and Sequoia, if I remember correctly, was a small family-owned
Yes.
company.
Yes.
So, obviously that was very strategic of what they did.
Yes.
Here's, just a small little company owned by a family, and
Right.
Everything's on the up and up.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. Okay.
That's what they did. And then in 2007, they applied to the state of California, Sequoia did, to run elections in California. Well, in California at that time, they had a process through the Secretary of State where any company that was applying to run elections in their state had to go through an audit, and they hired engineers from MIT, Berkeley, the top computer engineers in the company to examine the software to see if it was safe. And what they came back with, what these experts came back with, was that this software looked as though it was designed to steal elections. There were so many backdoors into this system that they rejected it. What the Venezuelans did at that point is that they sold Sequoia to another company, a Canadian company, which was also a small company that had been running elections in Ontario and a few districts in Canada, called Dominion. And this is what they've done constantly, is that whenever they're sort of cornered or caught, they sell to a different company. They try to disguise the fact that it's still the same software. That when the engineers look at it, it's still using the same source code. And when you look at this software, go ahead, Linda.
I was going to say, are they the same principles with the company as they move forward? They just keep going with the new companies?
Yeah, they hide, it's this very elaborate shell game. They incorporate in different countries. They're incorporated in Aruba, because in the Netherlands you don't have to reveal the owners of the company. They do. This is a very sophisticated operation. In fact, the engineers have told us that that we recruited, they've told us that when they get a contract to run an election, they plan a year ahead of time. So they start, when they look at the poll books, they have all the polling data for a particular district. So they know, who has voted Democratic, who has voted Republican, who votes every election, who has died since the last election, who has moved out of the district, and they can manipulate all this data to come up with a plan. And part of the plan is the machines. Now, the machines, the software itself, we have done all kinds of tests on the software. And as I said, we have the engineers who designed the software. And there are basically 14 different backdoors into the system. So in any particular, and they did this on purpose to make it very difficult to track. So in any particular election in any district, they can use a combination of these different backdoors in order to steal a particular district. So they might use, 1 and 10 in one district, and in the district next door, they use, 5 and 17. So it's very sophisticated. Now, what happened in 2020, and the reason these whistleblowers got involved, they were just starting their investigation in 2020, and they immediately they knew that the election had been stolen for Joe Biden. They went to the Trump campaign before Biden was sworn into office, and they told them, we know, we have the data, we know this election was stolen, and we know how they did it. And they went to Sidney Powell and Rudolph Giuliani, who were the lawyers for President Trump, and they told them this. But they also told them, do not, please don't divulge what we know at this point, because we really, we're criminal investigators, and until we have all the evidence, it's better not to announce it. Well, they were under such pressure by the Trump campaign to do something before Joe Biden was sworn in as president in January, that Sidney Powell came out and said, we have the Kraken. We're going to release the Kraken. Well, what she was referring to as the Kraken is exactly this information. So she went out and they announced that, but they didn't have the data and the evidence to back it up, and that's when the whistleblowers sort of backed away from the campaign. Now, another part, also, it's important for people to understand that the Cartel del Soles, which is the criminal organization that runs Venezuela and is still in place, they are the biggest transnational criminal organization in the world. They make their money mainly through drug sales. They control all drug trafficking of cocaine and other drugs in the Western Hemisphere, and they also do a lot in Europe and the Middle East. And they are tremendously successful, and they generate something between $2 and $3 trillion a year in profits. So they have very deep pockets. Also, Venezuela is one of the richest countries in the world, despite the fact that it's not doing well now. They have the highest oil reserves in the world, higher than Saudi Arabia. So they've been able over the years, now that, like I say, this system has been in place since 2008. Over the years, they've been able to corrupt and buy off all kinds of people as high up into our intelligence community. They've bought off county supervisors, they've bought off judges, election officials. So the corruption in our country is deep, and investigating and rooting out this system. That's why it's been so difficult for people.
Right. And as you were talking about all the corruption and the people that are on the take, I mean, it does take a while, again, to gather all the information. Now, we know Trump, now isn't going to be he doesn't have a trigger finger. He's learned.
Yeah.
When the time is right, this information is going to come out. I mean, we just saw recently, finally with Georgia, what's going on with them. There's others that it's going to be happening to. There's going to be some surprises.
Yes.
But it takes a while. And people really need to understand these drug cartels are not only involved in the drugs, they're involved in the illegals and the trafficking with that.
Yes.
And then bringing it back again to the manipulation of the votes and voting here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here in Connecticut, the drug cartels are the ones that pay off the illegals to register and vote.
Right.
And I'm sure that's, in all the states, even though people want to deny it.
Yes.
And it's very difficult to get the information in order to do a prosecution.
Yes.
Let alone, as you said, there's judges out there that have been paid off.
Yes.
and other officials. So right now is a big cleaning house.
Yeah.
And you've already shown how the first thing they were able to do is manipulate the people that were put in office that
Mhm.
shouldn't be there, which is why tying it to the SAVE Act,
Yeah.
why we have some people down in Washington, D.C. that do not want voter ID. They do not want U.S. citizens only in the elections. They don't want it cleaned up
No, they
for
don't.
good reason.
Yes.
There's a lot of money involved.
There's a lot of money and corruption. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right. Well, we're going to go to a quick break
Okay.
and we'll be right back.
We need your help to ensure one vote for one legal voter. Join Fight Voter Fraud. Request training, get the potential double-registered, double voter data for your town, and donate to support the fight. Visit fightvoterfraud.org because election integrity starts with you.
Hi, I'm Linda Sinkowitz. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. We are launching Operation Verify Voters 2026, and we want to get everyone involved in every single state because you can make a difference. We will be able to train you. It doesn't take that long for the training. It's very, very simple because you know the people on your street, in your neighborhood who have moved or died. We want to make sure that the voter rolls are clean. We're going to show you how to do it. Go to our website, fightvoterfraud.org, or scan the QR code and we'll show you how. Thank you. Hi, and welcome back to Sinkowitz. This is a special edition of Sinkowitz. I'm Linda Sinkowitz, and my guest on this particular program is Ralph Pezzullo. He is the author of Stolen Elections. Here we go. All to you now.
Before we went to break, we were talking about the corruption in our system. And it is deep, unfortunately. They have been doing this since 2008, and they is really a criminal cartel that are of our enemies. And it's not just, it started with Venezuela, but now it's Venezuela, Cuba, China, Russia, and Iran. They all hate the United States. They're trying to undermine us. They don't want to go to war with us, but what they call, it's called unrestricted warfare. So the whole idea is to try to sort of disintegrate the country, disrupt the country from within. And one of the tools they use are the election machines and the election software, which is a malware. Really, it's designed to steal elections. They also fund something called the Tren de la Aragua, which we've all heard about, which is basically a terrorist organization that is trained in Venezuela. These are men and women who were criminals or juvenile delinquents that were pulled out of prison, sent to training camps, taught skills like drug dealing and causing disruption, and sent into our country. And most of them came over the border during the Biden administration. And that's one of the activities that ICE is involved in, is trying to locate these people and throw them out of the country. They also spend a lot of money. They generate a tremendous amount of money, as I mentioned before. And a lot of it goes to NGOs in our country, like Black Lives Matter, like the Open Society Foundations, like the trans movement, Antifa. This is not, a lot of people look at these organizations and think that they're organic. But they're not organic. They're funded from overseas. They're funded by our enemies. So a lot of the disruption that we see and that we feel in our society is really an attack on our country by our enemies. And the Trump administration is now, trying to root this out. But the problem is that this corruption has gone as far as the White House. So there are people in our intelligence community and in the White House who don't want this rooted out. What I'm afraid of, and what the whistleblowers are afraid of, let me go back. So when the whistleblowers first presented this evidence to to members of Congress and to the FBI, nobody wanted to look at it, to their surprise. When they went to the FBI basically, looked at the evidence, the same evidence that I saw, and they looked at it and they basically said, you should hide this evidence, leave the country, and if you say anything about it, you're going to get arrested. They were, of course, shocked. But there's a lot of resistance today still in our Congress and in our throughout our government to accepting this and doing something about this evidence. So we have to organize a movement of American patriots, of people who from both parties, because this affects all of us. It takes away our vote. So we don't have a government for the people, by the people. We have a government determined by foreigners and by corrupt people within our country, and we have to recover that. And the only way we'll do that is to put pressure on our elected officials.
Oh, absolutely. And what you were just talking about, even within the Department of Justice,
Yes.
it takes a while to weed a lot of them out. When
Yes.
Trump got elected, 300 were let go.
Yes.
There's still a lot of bad apples in there that
Yeah.
as much as, Pam Bondi is fighting for stuff, you have people working against her. And again, as you said, in the White House, we can sort of guess who some of these people are, but we need to have actual evidence and
Yeah.
information in
Yeah.
order to have them removed from where they are. Like I said, the intelligence community, it's still out there.
It's still,
And
yes.
yep.
And even President Trump, look, I admire him, but he is talking about the 2020 election and the steal in the 2020 election, and all his efforts have been directed towards that, towards showing that he actually won the election that was stolen from him, which is true. But the system is beyond the 2020 election. He wouldn't have ever been elected in 2024 if it weren't for hackers, white hat hackers who had blocked the servers in Serbia in 2024. They were going to steal the election for Kamala Harris. Now, I don't know if he even understands this, but this system has to be destroyed. Now, he went into Venezuela and he removed the leader, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife, but he left the Cartel del Soles in place. So Delcy Rodriguez, who is now the accepted president of Venezuela, and according to our Secretary of State Marco Rubio, is cooperating with us and doing a very good job. It's like replacing Hitler with Goebbels. I mean, the regime is not gone.
Well, I also think it is going to take a while to get them out because
Yes.
first we know that he was not the legitimate president of Venezuela, Maduro.
right.
Absolutely not.
Mhm.
But knowing you have the drug cartels and all the other nefarious ones in there, it's going to take a while, because otherwise it would have produced, I think, incredible backlash. We would not see anything going forward with the oil and the cooperation.
Mhm.
So it is going to take a little bit of time. Yeah, we know that the bad guys are still involved in there.
Yeah.
The one who threatened Ana Diaz is still one of the highest ranking people in Venezuela.
Mhm. And there's
So
people and
you know,
throwing
it,
up
it
leaders in
yeah.
jail. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it is going to take a while, but I think the biggest thing for the audience would be to open your eyes as to what is going on.
Yes.
For the immigration, we
Yeah.
need to get these people out of our country. I mean,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
key. And as you said, they are being backed financially by Soros, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, all these other things. They're not grassroots, protesters.
The money is not.
You know?
Soros has deep pockets. The money
Right.
comes from Venezuela and China, and we can prove that. like I said, this is not a homegrown movement. This is something that is funded by our enemies, and the American need to understand that, and need to understand that it's not so partisan as people make it out to be. It's really an attack on all Americans, and that's why we have to sort of come together and say, we want this out, we want these people out, we want this money out, and we want this system of stealing, manipulating elections, this malware, we want it out. We don't want our elections run by Chinese-made voting machines loaded with Venezuelan software that was designed to steal elections.
Again, that's why Trump is pushing, same day voting,
Yes,
paper ballots,
yes,
and hand counted. There is a reason for this,
there's a
because
reason.
it is the only way we are going to get our country back on track. But in the meantime, you see all the pushback from the secretaries of state, mostly in the Democratic states, not to give the DOJ the information. I mean, we have to start somewhere.
Yes,
But absolutely, people wake up.
yeah,
You see this Trump derangement syndrome and these people that are just completely off their rockers, including Schumer.
yeah.
I mean, just look at what's going on. They're going to fight it to the end against this SAVE Act.
And what
It's
are they?
for the American people.
Yeah, they're defending criminals from overseas. They're defending our enemies. They're aiding the enemies, and you have to understand that this is an invasion, a secret invasion of the United States. It's not troops on the ground, but they have undermined our systems, and our most important system is elections.
Well, look at New York City.
Yeah,
We have a communist in there.
yeah,
A communist.
yeah.
They voted him in. Do we think that's legitimate votes that were voted in?
No.
No. But
Then-
not enough other people
but-
came out just to vote against it.
Right.
You see what's happening in Virginia.
Yeah.
The governor of Virginia kept
Mhm.
proclaiming that she was a moderate.
Mhm.
Red flag. What did she do? Like 1,200 executive orders her first day to turn Virginia into a socialist state.
Mhm.
I mean, people have got to wake up, and
They have
these
to.
people that are protesters,
Yeah.
they don't have real jobs. They're paid $80,000 to $100,000 to be professional protesters.
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, like I said, we need to have people wake up. And I
Yes.
think people reading your book, which Stolen Elections, The Takedown, is available on Amazon. I'm sure it's in the bookstores. It is definitely something that people need to read.
Yes.
It's not fiction.
Yes.
It is absolute fact on what is going on.
Mhm.
And it is taking a while for certain things to start rolling out here in the country. Like I
Mhm.
said, the
Mhm.
Georgia stuff, anybody who knew anything back in 2020 knew absolutely that went on.
Right.
And everybody who tried,
Yeah. And people,
Rudy Giuliani, look what happened to him.
yeah.
He was right.
Yeah.
Trump was right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need to take our country back, but
Yes.
people need to understand how deep this manipulation has been with our country.
Yeah.
And your book is a phenomenal source in educating people on what's going on.
Thank you. No. It's the corruption is deep. They have had since 2008 to perfect the system and to buy off the right officials. They knew exactly what they were doing. They control all the key counties in the country. This is a very organized fight against us with a lot of money behind it. And if we don't root it out now, we're in deep trouble. And as I say, they have spread this to 72 countries around the world. So it's not just an American problem. Other countries are involved, and they're waking up to this as well. Like in South Korea, they're very on top of all of this, and in other countries as well. So it's this is a worldwide movement. If we want to have democratic run countries, we have to act now. Otherwise, we will be controlled by, by communist overlords, and we will just be, told what to
Yeah.
do, what to think, and we will have no freedom whatsoever.
I have faith in my president with everything that he's doing, that, he's fearless. He is
Yeah,
absolutely, he knows the stuff that's going on,
yeah,
but he is actually doing things, I believe, the way they should be done, keeping people guessing too. But just
yeah,
remember, in the future,
yeah,
anybody who hears President Trump say that they stole the 2020 election, he is 100% accurate on
yeah.
that. It is
No,
not a conspiracy theory.
this is not a,
So,
yeah. By the way, all the information in the book has been investigated by the FBI, turned over to the Justice Department. Elon Musk has gone through, independent people have gone through it all, and it's all legitimate. And,
mhm,
but they don't, it's hard to get attention because also the news media in our country is controlled. And so
absolutely.
have to rely on people like Linda, other whistleblowers, courageous people who spread the news, and we have to we all have to become aware of this and put pressure everywhere we can on officials, on everywhere to become aware of this and root out this system. We don't want it here. We want free
No,
and fair elections, and whoever wins, wins.
right. One vote for one legal voter.
That's right.
That's all we want.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Ralph, for coming on and talking to us about your book. We greatly appreciate it. And hopefully, we can get this pushed out for a lot more people to not only read your book, but to start to understand what is really going on. So
Yes.
thank you again for coming on.
Thank you, Linda, for all that you do. I greatly admire you. Thank you.
No, thank you.